to receive apologies. Any apologies, Owen?
No apologies. Oh, there is one actually. Andrew Gilling did say he may not be able to get here this evening.
Okay. Declarations of interest. Bob, have you got anything, or anybody got any declarations of interest, prejudicial or what? Bob?
Mine's just as the parish, as the district and county councillor.
Okay. Will you have to? Are you allowed to stay in for the planning then at this particular stage?
At this stage, yes, because there is no planning application.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Item 3, you've all received the minutes of our last virtual meeting in February. Are you all happy that they're a true record of the meeting and that in the opportunity that I signed them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks very much. Okay, item 4, planning. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you.
Talk to us about change of use of existing outbuildings to dwellings, land to the east of Wireless Station Road, Brent Knoll. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's hopefully you've all had copies of the plans. So mine's only a few words really at the moment. It's thank you, Chairman and Councillors, for the opportunity to discuss with you this proposal. The proposal is to convert the existing buildings on the site west of Wireless in Station Road, as you know. My clients, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, have lived next to the site for over 50 years and wishes to convert the buildings to a pair of single-storey dwellings, providing parking and enclosed gardens and making the west dwelling for their own accommodation. The building is of standing construction and can be simply converted. This proposal has not been submitted for planning approval yet, but we would like to have your comments and thoughts prior to the submission. I'm happy to answer any questions that and listen to your discussions really.
Andrea, Nigel and Andy, you're on the planning committee in particular. Have you got any questions or observations you want to ask of Jane, please?
I have a question. So we're converting the outbuildings into something residential. Would that be to rent, or would that be for the family use or as a holiday let?
No, the larger one, which is they're both 2 beds, proposed 2 beds. The larger one nearest to the west, which is nearest the railway lines, is what Mr. and Mrs. Jones would like to go and live in. They want to downsize. I think, now's the time, they decided. And the other one, well, it depends really. I mean, it could be rented or it could be sold. I don't think they've even sort of made much thought about it, but it would be, I know that they would like it for somebody local. I know they were looking for something that would help. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Jane?
Not today.
Sorry, Bob, have you got any items to add? No, I think we'll just wait to see your detailed plans and your when they come through, but it's very nice that you've taken the opportunity to speak to us and if you like, forewarn us and offer yourself as someone that we can question. But it seems to be well, I think a fairly reasonable request, which we will consider accordingly. No doubt the planning committee will have a closer look at it and then advise us. But I don't think there's any more to say, Andrea, Nigel or Andy.
No, not at this stage.
Oh, I do appreciate your time. Thank you, because it's obviously important that we get the we try to explain to you why, and it's not a shock when it comes to you, hopefully.
Lovely, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. I do appreciate it. Stay safe.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Jane.
Okay. activity reports then. Footpaths, do we have any reports on footpaths, please?
Not really. They've certainly dried up a lot since I last spoke about them. It's improved a great deal, but I haven't seen anything untoward that I can report.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on footpaths? I mean, we'll obviously have to deal with the Knoll path, but
Yeah. Oh yes, actually, I could make a comment if that's all right. I have walking round the reservoir. Obviously, there's a footpath and there's a fence. Well, a lot of the fence the wire has all been bent and trodden down. Now, whether that's people that are walking, I don't know, but there's quite a lot of it that goes right round towards the reservoir, and some places have been trampled. Now, if that is somebody that, say somebody that's been walking has done it, I mean, who is responsible for that?
well, they're Mike Diamond's fields, aren't
Yeah,
they?
I know they are, but I don't think he's done it. I think it is people that have been walking.
No, the horses did it originally,
did-
out onto the path, and people also crossed over the fence, get into the field to avoid all the mud on the path.
Yeah, that's
it's like it for months,
yeah,
but now the land is for sale.
yeah.
I wouldn't think that Mike Diamond is going to put those
No,
fences.
no, it's just a question, Colin, because obviously when damage is done like that, obviously, well, he as you say, he's not going to do it now because he's selling the land. There we are.
Okay. Anything else on paths? No. Okay. Highways. Has Malcolm got anything?
Yes, on Hill Lane, by the entrance to Bullcops Hall, the road surface is deteriorating quite badly.
Mm.
On Harp Road, going towards Mark, before Westways, near the junction of Vole Road, there is a large pothole on the left, and it's quite deep.
Junction of Vole Road, you say, Malcolm?
Just before the junction for Vole Road.
Okay. Right. Just so I can come back to you on the Bullcops Hall issue. This was part of the overall number of items that we raised with the county, if you remember, and which they are now currently dealing with. And I've had a couple of telephone calls from the county, from the new lady, her name escapes me just at the moment. But she says that a lot of these jobs are being scheduled. So hopefully in time that will be fixed.
Right, thank you.
There's a new lady taking over from Catherine Tyson. That's right, Bob, isn't it? Yeah. And she's been in touch with me 2 or 3 times now, so she's clearly taken the matters on that list from Tony Hill very, very seriously. So that's good. Very positive, actually. So we wait for the results.
Thank you, Owen.
Dead silence.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you.
Obviously stunned by that information, by the sound of it.
Very good. It's very good. Bob, did you have something for us on the signs at the bottom of Hill Lane? Bob?
Not any further progress than that they are being looked to be replaced.
Okay.
The only other thing I was going to mention, which is just a report back, is that the 2 ones that were reported last time by us, the broken up surface outside the hairdressers and the pothole near the village hall, have both been repaired.
Thank you.
Good. Well,
Okay.
progress. Good.
Well done. Okay, who's the village green report?
That was me.
Right.
Malcolm.
Fire away, Malcolm.
Made several village green inspection visits during February. The ground still very wet and the grass is long. The play equipment is being well used by young family groups on certain days, especially the climbing frame. Generally, the green, car park and toilets were in a clean condition with minimal rubbish. On the 22nd of February, I discovered the gents' WC lock broken. The ladies' cubicle was also locked. When opened, the toilet was blocked and the flush not working. It was reported to the clerk.
Mhm.
On a subsequent visit, the ladies' toilet is now in working order. The lock on the gents still not repaired. A bench on the left of the green, there is a slat missing, seat slat. The toilet block gutter end cap needs fixing at the rear. And if I can make one observation, the Reen on the right is stagnant, and the last house on the right has put decking across the Reen. Thank you.
When you say the last house on the right as you're looking from the car park,
Yes,
are you referring to the Driscoll's house where they put new fencing up?
yes.
Yeah.
They've also put decking across the Reen, which does prevent some access at that far end.
Yeah, I think Bob made that point, didn't you, to me, that the Driscolls had essentially put a new fence up adjacent to our new fence, which in theory is on the village green land, and they didn't really consult with us, whereas we consulted with them in depth over putting the new fence up, but they didn't bother to consult with us in putting the new fence and the decking across. I don't, what would the council like us to do about that? To point it out to them, to ignore it, or what do the councillors feel?
Well, if Sedgemoor is anything to go by, you need to put an enforcement notice in. Because who then becomes responsible? Do we, if it's on our land?
Well, if it's on our land, we're responsible for it, surely.
Well, essentially, they shouldn't have put it on there without asking our permission.
Correct. So we should ask them to take it down then.
You know, I had a phone call from Jim Butt the other day, and he asked whether he could put some light green, if you like, PVC netting on the fence to provide a little bit of a barrier. And I didn't see any problem with that. I haven't gone back to him yet. I said I would take advice, but I can't see any problem with that because Jim always said that's what he would like to do when we consulted with him. But when you think that we did that fence and pussyfooted around the Driscolls in order that their privacy wouldn't be disturbed, I just think that it's a bit off, considering the amount of discussion we had with them about putting our fence up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bob wants to say something.
Oh, yeah.
Colin was only going to say, I think the least we can do, if we were happy that the fence was there, we at least need to make sure that there is an acknowledgement from them that they have put it on our land. Because otherwise the danger is if the fence remains and it stays there for a number of years without us raising it as an issue, then in effect they could claim de facto the border would change. So I think that then there needs to be some form of documentary acknowledgement that at least that fence is on parish council land and that they acknowledge that they're not making a claim to that area.
Yeah, I agree.
Is this a letter? Is this a letter? By the sounds of it, from us, council.
I
We
think,
did- sorry.
sorry, I can't see everybody, so you may have to shout. Andy, or I can get participants if you want to. If you want to signal on the participants that you want to speak, I can pick you up.
Okay. Colin? Colin?
Yeah. Yes?
Yep. If we're going to include a letter about the border, do we not have to mention the fact that we need access, or access is needed to the Reen to ensure that it's in working order?
Yep.
Because the Reens are there to protect the village.
Well, the ownership is a co-ownership of that Reen, yes, I agree. We ought to point out that we may well need access to that in the future, but that's also a good point. Warwick?
Yeah, well, the boundary is technically in the centre of the Reen.
Yeah.
So if anything goes over that Reen, they're actually putting it on our side or our boundary.
Yeah.
So if we need access to the Reen, we need unfettered access to that Reen. So if they put decking across, we need to politely ask them to remove it or make it removable to allow us full access to the Reen for clearing or maintenance purposes.
Yeah, I think we can make. Yeah, I think we can make that point as well, Owen.
Okay, I've made note of those things. Taking co-ownership, access for the future.
Yeah, and acknowledge that it is parish council land. Yeah.
Are
Okay.
you allowed to actually cover a Reen?
Axtrew don't like it.
No. Again, I think that a letter should be written to Axbrew to say that this is what's happened without any permission or any consultation, because I don't want us as the parish council to get into trouble. And I don't think that it's something that should have happened full stop.
I agree with you.
Bob has a raised hand, Colin.
Sorry?
Bob's got a raised hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
That's all right. It was, I think, in terms of the Axbrew and the maintenance of the Reen, the one other thing we may need to just bottom out, and I can't remember where we were with this, was what was happening with the clearance of the Reen further down. Because in terms of maintaining the Reen to keep it flowing, there was an issue, if you remember, at the bottom of that Reen where it flows out. And if we're asking them to keep it flowing at the top, they may come straight back to us and say, well, that's fine, but have you sorted out the flowing at the bottom, which is taking away the water, which is stagnant in the Reen at the moment?
Yeah, I thought we were talking to Axbrew, John, about that.
Yeah, they have got it on their sort of hit list, but where they are with that, I don't know. I can find out.
Yeah, I think the point the councillors have made is that yes, it was wrong to cover that Reen, but also the important point is they need to make it accessible for future clearance and should that be necessary by either the council or Axbrew.
Yeah, but I think as the parish council, we should turn around and say, unless Axbrew are happy that they can put decking over that Reen and they've got permission to do it,
Take it away.
Take it away, because you know, if you haven't got permission by the people that own the Reens or in charge of clearing them out, because Axbrew do get quite shirty about people covering Reens. I know we had to jump loads and loads of hoops when we covered a culvert in the front of our house when it was being renovated, because they got quite shirty about it and wanted CCTV to go all the way through it to make sure it was done properly. So,
Which is fair enough.
yeah, because at the end of the day, if there's a blockage, somebody's got to clear it.
And somebody's got to be responsible for it.
Agree.
Well, perhaps we should take that up with Matthew Ward.
Well, I'll write him an email tomorrow and just ask him where we are with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Is everyone happy with that action?
Yeah,
Fine.
Okay. Can I just say something also about something Malcolm picked up on, the toilet block? We did have a problem, and in fact, we used a local company called Azure Plumbing. They went in and had a look at it, and they gave us the same diagnosis as the Aquablast company gave us last year, which is that there is some dodgy pipe work behind the ladies' side of the block, which they are going to give us a price to actually fix long term. But it'd be quite a big job. I suspect we're probably talking in excess of £1,000 probably to do the work. But it was pointed out to us last year as well. So as soon as we get the quote, I'll share it with the council, obviously. But it needs to be done.
Thank you, Owen. Anything else? Have we addressed everything, Malcolm?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
the lock on the gents' door is
Which I've asked Paul Dixon if he can have a look at. I've already asked that question to Paul.
Okay, thank
the
you.
lock that's in situ now is been quite forcibly forced back and broken.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Malcolm.
Okay, play area report.
Which I sent earlier on today.
Yeah.
Any comments on that at all?
No.
It was pointed out to me earlier on that the climbing frame, which obviously was virtually condemned a month ago, is still showing as a low risk on the report, which is surprising. So I need to find out from GB Sports if it's a low risk. Can they talk to us about it? What is the risk? Because needs an investment otherwise.
Yeah, would there be any interim repairs? Because obviously we've got to go out for quotes. This could be quite a substantial investment in replacing all that unit, and could well take us some time. Are there any initial repairs that can be made, Owen?
Well, I think we just need to ask Colin Lewis whether he can make any suggestions for a short-term fix.
Okay.
I will ask him the question.
Okay, thank you. And
Bob's got a raised hand, by the way.
oh, Bob, sorry, beg your pardon.
Was only going to say, Colin, in terms of repairs, structurally, it doesn't appear dangerous at the moment. The biggest problem with it is where the hole is being created. Obviously, kids could put their fingers in a rusty hole and have a problem. So if nothing else in the short term, it just needs a bit of filler put in to make sure at least people aren't able to hurt themselves on a rough piece of metal.
Probably needs to be welded.
Sorry, John?
It needs to be welded.
Does it need to be welded, Bob? Have you seen it?
It's sweet, isn't it?
It's yeah. I mean, it's a rusty hole where they've broken away a piece of the metal, so you can get your finger in there at the moment.
Welded up.
Okay. John, well, is anyone able to go and have a look at this? I mean, I don't mind coming down with you, or shall I go and have a look at it?
I'm quite happy to do it.
Okay, Brian and I will liaise and we'll go and have a look at it and report back. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Is that all on the play area? Okay. There's nothing from me. You'll be pleased to know. Clerk's report.
The only thing I would say about my report is obviously there's going to be a lot of financial stuff coming up. We're in March now, of course, which means that as we get towards the end of March, there's loads of financial stuff. So I apologise in advance if I send you loads of stuff, because obviously we don't have the advantage of having the physical meeting now. So there will be quite a lot of financials. We're moving on to new software from April the 1st. And obviously I need to make sure that everything we've got in situ is all correct and properly ready for the auditors. So as I say, I'll make no apologies for the fact that there will be some financial papers coming your way in the next few weeks. Substantial.
Right. Thanks, Owen.
Are you happy, Owen, with the state of the finances at this particular time of the year?
Yeah, very happy actually. I mean, when we set the precept back in December, we estimated, I think, that we were going to end up at about 61,000 of operational funds, and we got very close to that actually. I made a fairly good guess. We're about 60,000 actually. So we're about the right levels of finance.
Good.
Of course, excuse me. We wanted to come to a council meeting, I think. The only thing I would say is that we just need to make sure that obviously we separate the SIL money and those fixed reserves, which must be taken out of that equation, which amount to about 35,000 in total, roughly. So we have about 25 to 30,000 unencumbered capital at the moment, which is, reasonable. But I'll send you all the data on that. We are waiting for a VAT reclaim, which should give us another £2,000. So it's okay. It's good.
Good.
Thanks, Owen. Well done.
Thank you.
Police report, speed watch report. Anything on that, Owen?
Nothing at all. Apart from the police report I sent earlier on today.
Yeah. You have a great deal in there on speeding,
No.
or any local.
Haven't heard from Speed Watch Group at all, actually.
No.
No speed watch on it.
No.
Okay.
So
Right. Thank you, Bob. District and county report.
Yeah. Quick update in terms of the COVID numbers locally. We're now in Sedgemoor down to about 80 cases per 100,000, so it is coming in the right direction. Somerset as a whole is down to around about 50 odd. So we're still actually, of the 4 districts, Sedgemoor has the highest rates, and within Sedgemoor at the moment there's a bit of a hot spot around the Burnham area. So again, it's people need to be careful. We've obviously now got the roadmap as to how we're supposed to be coming out of this, but as I say, that will be dependent on the numbers continuing to head in the right direction. So it is important that if people can encourage others to stick to the rules as best they can, that is going to help. Vaccinations are going extremely well at the moment, still in the area, and they're now down to, I believe they're starting to send out some invites to the over 55s. We've been told that between 43 and 44% of the whole Somerset adult population has now been vaccinated, and that's about 200,000 plus people that have been jabbed in Somerset. The county council has just recently had its budget set meeting, so the figures on that roughly are that the council tax is going up on the basic council tax by 2%, but also the government has again suggested that councils, and the county council will be doing this, is adding a further 3% for social care. So when you hear the government talking about there being more spending power in councils, what that means is they've given the councils the power to take the money from the local residents. It's not that there's money come from government. But to give you some idea of the increases, so for next year, the increase in the adult social care budget is just over £10 million in Somerset, and just over 9 million in the children's services. The 3% extra that is going on for that on the council tax will raise about 7 million. So it's only a proportion of that is being funded through that. The rest is having to be found from other savings and other funding. In terms of other things that you may have heard, again through the budget, we've as a county have put £400,000 into the Citizens Advice Bureau, because they help with, obviously, a lot of people contact them for getting information about debt issues and other particular things that have been growing during the COVID time. So it was felt that was important to help support those services. One bit of news which also as fits in with the social care issue, one of the problems with the social care budget in the past has been a lack of local social workers, so a lot have had to have been bought in on agency. So there is a active campaign that is being launched to encourage younger people to go into social work, and so that will be a campaign running between now and the 7th of April, I think it is, that they said that they'll be trying to highlight that as a career for people to follow, and trying to encourage people to take that as a role that they might want to take forward. And in terms of the county, as well as providing a better service, it would also help reduce the cost, because the cost of employees is an awful lot less than the cost of agency workers if they have to be topped up with. On the One Somerset, Stronger Somerset issue, which is the unitary, as you'll probably have heard now, that the Secretary of State has confirmed there will not be county council elections in May. He is starting his consultation over an 8-week period now, over sort of February, March and beginning of April. And once he's done that, he'll be looking for feedback from interested parties, councils and the health services, the police. All will be asked about their views as to which they think is the best way forward. And ultimately he will make the decision on that probably around about July, August time. And then we'll be looking at a set of elections to be held in 2022 in May, that will then be elected towards whatever the new body is that he's decided to go with, whether it's the one unitary or the two. In terms of district, also had the budget set on that as well, and Sedgemoor is putting up the council tax this year by £5 on a Band D property. That will result, I think it's about a 3% rise, roughly. In terms of spending, we're putting aside some money in for climate change initiatives within the district. There's also some we've set aside money, although the government has said that they're looking at potentially a salary freeze for civil servants. We're looking at probably a 2% rise in staff salaries at the district, and to some extent as a reward for the efforts that have been made during the COVID crisis, there will be 1 day of extra leave that will be made available to those staff who've been volunteering on that front. There's also an investment that's going in again to the CAB. They're getting about 200,000 from Sedgemoor to again help with their works in terms of supporting the population locally. And we're also investing in a new officer to go into the economic developments team as an economic recovery officer, to try and help businesses that can come out the other side of COVID if they need support to get back to a more profitable situation. So that, I think, is probably about it for the two at the moment, but happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Bob? It's very good, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Andy, I can't see you, or David, I can't see you, or Malcolm. You okay with that?
Fine with that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Thanks,
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, finance matters, Owen.
The only payment this month over and above our normal statutory payment is the CPRE subscription for this year at £36. And in fact, that probably is our last payment of this financial year, because we won't be meeting again until April. So that should be our last payment. £36 to CPRE. Need a agreement to that, please.
Warwick and Andrea, everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't think there is any other. We received an inward grant from the Nuttall Trust with regard to Colin's application for a picnic bench of £500, and I have sent them a letter thanking them for their support.
Thanks, Owen. Okay, let's move on then. Item 7, updated matters. Bob, well, everyone should have received a circulation on notes from our initial meeting with the with Niall and David Sturgis. Bob, do you want to take that on, please?
Yeah, I think really, as you say, most of it was covered in the notes that you've had circulated. I think we're still looking to obviously work with the shop committee to try and see how we can take this forward. We need to get obviously further information from them in due course, and I think the main thing we're asking for yourselves at the moment is to allow us to continue to liaise with them and to report back to the council as we can with information as it comes forward.
Are you all happy that we continue? We've had a further subgroup meeting as a result of that meeting, and we need to go back to them with further information. But do any of the councillors have any particular issues they want us to address, or you feel that we should be addressing? I think we've got the main thing covered, but you had a long email from David. Yeah. He has asked us to ask the councillors to support the shop where they can, which those that can support, I'm sure, are supporting it. But we do need to continue our conversation with them. Andy, I can't see you, but do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's we're still having conversations with them about a wide range of subjects.
Okay. Okay, so if you're happy with that, we'll just continue to speak with them and then report back. Okay, the speed indicator group have met. Unfortunately, Nigel couldn't manage the second one, but Brian's got a report, and I circulated a sheet which we put together, and Brian will make the presentation to you now. Brian.
Thank you. Well, a subgroup met to discuss the relative merits of two speed indicators of devices, as you saw on your sheet, Evolis and Westcotec. Both provided very, very similar basic units with spare brackets, batteries, Bluetooth facilities, and warranties. Evolis warranty was for 2 years, Westcotec for 3 years. Both systems were easy to amend and were portable and were light, which I think is important. They could download Bluetooth on an app shared. The installation was easy, but training, the important thing is that training was very necessary in both cases. The Evolis monitored by light was robust and its sealed unit weighed 10 kilograms. Westcotec uses a button on the side and that weighed 12 kilograms. Westcotec's price was £2,006. No, sorry, £3,445. Evolis was 2006. In further discussions regarding training and the subgroup, considering the Parish Council as facilitators, felt that it should finance professionally trained people in setting up the technical side of the system, and that Parish Council members should not be expected to fulfil that position to avoid complications with insurance. This was also suggested in the employment of a person around the village, as mentioned in an earlier meeting. As both machines provided very similar and clear information, it was felt that Evolis, although based in France and which may possibly be a problem, although no problem so far been experienced in a local situation, at Rodney Stoke, for instance, that was the preferred choice, and that going for the cheaper version of almost identical systems would meet with the approval of the public. Burnham-on-Sea have got 2 Evolis units, but have not been put in situ yet because of the coronavirus restrictions. So the subgroup came to the conclusion to recommend the purchase of the Evolis system. Thus ends the sermon.
Thanks, Brian. If anybody wants to go and see this kit working, Rodney Stoke had a unit which I went out to see, spoke with the guy on the parish council that maintains it, and it is very straightforward and easily managed. Hence, I think that's the way the group have gone. As regards the, you councillors will remember that if you work on a highway, moving one of these things or installing it, you have to have, and not probably come in here, some Chapter 8 training for working on a highway. And of course, Richard doesn't have that training and would be a liability for us, even though he's been very kind in doing this in the past. But Nichols Facilities Management, Stuart Nichols, already manages these units for other local councils, and he's Chapter 8 trained, and hence we don't have to worry that we are not acting, if you like, within the, or we are acting within the law and our obligations. And that's why, one, we felt go for Evolis, but two, we have someone professionally managing this unit. He can download it to an app on his mobile phone. He will then download it onto Windows. It's not Apple compatible or iPhone compatible, but he will then produce the reports for us, which is very good because it'll tell us where the hotspots are. And we've been very not slack. We haven't got many reports over the years we've had a speed indicator device, and I think this will aid our reporting because he does it anyway for the councils that he works for.
These systems are in a different class from what we've had before, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. So our proposal from the speed group would be that we purchase an Evolis unit with 4 extra mounting brackets, because we've got a total of 5 approved sites in Station Road, Station Road, what's the other? Burton Road,
Brent Street.
Brent Knoll. So each bracket will go on one of those sites, so it makes it easier to take down and remove.
That's good.
That's our proposal, please, that we do that. And we employ Nichols Facilities Management, please.
Very good.
John
Yeah.
is seconding that.
I second that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we all in favour? Can you indicate to me, please?
Hands up, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob?
Is that everybody?
Andy, have you voted? You've got. I can't see
Yes.
Andy.
Yeah,
He's voting up.
And Malcolm.
Bob's raised his
Yes.
hand a minute, but is that just for voting?
That was voting, but it wasn't seen, so I put my other hand up as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks to the speed group. Thank you very much.
I will. I'll send you a copy of the purchase order that we place.
Yeah, and I think the important thing with Ian Mackey is we don't pay for this thing up front. We only pay for it when we get it, which is unlike the last supplier we had.
Which we know no more about.
Yeah. Additional dog bin.
We're waiting for the appropriate documentation to come from the county on this. It's taking an absolute age to get this through from the county. But hopefully next week or two, we should get things in place ready for the district to do the installation.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Thank you. Brian.
Can I just say something allied to this? There was an article recently in Radio Times, I think it was, complaining that there's an epidemic of dog poo in the country. It's not just here, and it's still bad here. I mean, and also an epidemic of discarded masks. I've seen several in this village, and walking up and down. And believe it or not, we saw a pair of discarded underpants as well. But, I think it's just so important to ram it home to the public that it's not acceptable.
Yeah, there are masks in the car park at the top of Hill Lane that have been discarded as well. I wonder whether the facilities management company could look at something like that around the village once a week or fortnight to actually look at the look at specific areas, very much like Jason does the landscaping, whether someone could buzz around the village and just examine the key public sites. But it's probably something for discussion.
It's certainly got worse in the last year or so.
Any points from David or Andrew or Malcolm? No? Okay. Okay, so we're waiting for that then, Owen.
Wait for that, yep.
Wait
for it to happen.
Colin, Bob's got his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Sorry, Colin. It was just to say one thing that might be worth thinking about. We can't do it while we're still in lockdown, but a number of other surrounding villages organise these litter picks every so often, and it might be worth having a look at doing that and see what a lot of them do get a lot of volunteers coming forward from local residents to do that.
I'd be pleased to do that. We'd obviously have to get all the kit organised, but I think that's a really good idea. Yeah.
If we do, Sedgemoor can help with the kit.
Okay.
We've mentioned this before in earlier meetings some years ago, but there was some concern about insurance again. About how would we be insured?
No, it's okay, providing people are working on our behalf and we are aware of who is working, then it's fine. They're insured by us.
Okay.
So it's most important to have the names of the people that are doing it.
Okay. Warwick, you signalled, do you wanted to say something, I think?
Yeah, I said it depends whether we all get dressed up as the Wombles, isn't it? And walk through the...
Could be. Fun.
Okay. Well, perhaps, Bob, can you give us more details so we can find out about what they will provide, and then we could maybe do that exercise.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out.
Okay, thank you. 20-mile-an-hour limit near the village school.
No, nothing to report on that.
Okay.
And nothing to report on the weight restrictions issue either. And neither of those was I expecting any quick fix on those. They're long-term ongoing issues, both of those two things.
I think really you've reported on the next one, Owen, with efforts that are being made in Tony.
That's all in hand.
Something's happening.
Yep.
Defibrillator project. I don't know where we are on that.
Basically, as you know, I bought this detailed report to you last month with a view to getting some views on it. I put it on the ongoing issues because I'm not sure whether we want to take it further, whether we want to leave it a bit longer and later in the year. What is your view? Obviously, the telephone kiosk was the favourite location, I guess. Andy wants to say something.
Andy?
The defibrillator for me needs to be more central to the village, and I know that the town hall is or the village hall is probably more central than most locations, and it's around the play park area and parking. So it always seems to me that if we're going to do this, then that would probably be more suited and easier for access, especially now as Caroline's shop is up for sale, so we don't know what's going to happen. And there is still the discussion of what we do with the phone box. And there is still an open discussion whether we're actually going to put that in Warwick's garden or move it on. So I think from that perspective, I think we should be doing it, but I think we should be talking about a location that's going to be that we've got relative security on, and it should be more central to the village.
On the kiosk, I spoke to British Telecom last week, actually. Fortunately, I had a number which I managed to dig out for them. The kiosk itself we are duty bound to retain it where it is, unless we get a very special dispensation. So in other words, it is where it is, and we can apply to move it, but it won't be a 5-minute job, and there'll be some sort of legal documentation that's required. So obviously it depends on what happens to Caroline's shop. I mean, if Caroline sells a shop, then of course the telephone kiosk is going to be on the land they're purchasing. So there may be some legal implications coming out of all of that as time goes on. So maybe the defibrillator thing needs to be put on ice a little bit until we know what's happening to the kiosk.
Or we move on the defibrillator sooner, and just rule that site out.
Yeah.
Well, I said before, I think a defibrillator would be better on an open wall rather than inside the telephone kiosk. And as I've said many times before, I'd like to see the telephone kiosk moved to as an icon on the village green, but that's another point.
I will leave it as an ongoing issue.
I think so. I think the defibrillator is tied up quite closely with the phone box, to be honest with you, because I assume that if somebody buys Caroline's shop, then they will probably ask us to get rid of it or want to remove it. And in that case, then we go back to British Telecom and say, look, this is a legitimate reason for moving it now, because new ownership. So perhaps we just keep it on ice. I feel it's an important project and a worthwhile project, but knowing the history behind it, I won't bully it through, for want of a better word. Okay, so we'll just carry it forward.
Yeah. Okay. Colin, just
yes.
I understand, and I understand, Chair, that we're carrying it forward. The defibrillator, is it really linked to the phone kiosk? If we didn't have the phone kiosk, we would have resolved the defibrillator discussion before. Yeah. So I think they are disconnected, and right. I think we've got to decide whether we want a defibrillator independent of that.
Okay. No,
it should go on an open wall, I think.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's where we come back to. We have had Bob. Yes, sorry, go on, Bob.
Was only going to say a couple of things. One, if we are looking at other projects that might be happening in and around the village green and other stuff, depending on what happens with it's not just a telephone kiosk, it could be the shop, we don't know yet. But also I would just say in terms of whether it's inside or on an outside wall, from the other parishes that I attend, a lot of them that have them on outside walls have real problem with corrosion and having to renew the boxes that they're in, whereas those that have them inside somewhere, they tend to last much better. So there are arguments on both sides, but I think certainly my own view would be, in principle, yes, we absolutely should be going ahead with it. But I think there are so many other plates spinning at the moment. I just think we do need to see where some of those land before we make a final decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay, I'll leave that there.
They're still related, but unrelated. We'll leave it at that, but we'll carry it forward. Okay. Thank you. Am I right in saying we've got no correspondence, Owen?
No, there's nothing apart from the email I sent this afternoon to you from a lady down by Brent Corner who was still complaining about the issues regarding water. I don't know. I didn't reply. I mean, I haven't replied back to her. Not sure what to say to her really at this stage. Has anybody else got any views? Bob, what did you say?
Was only going to say the only update I can give you at the moment is that within that correspondence, it talked about water coming off potentially the building site. There are additional drains that have been put on that side of the highway to deal with anything that does come that way, and they are flowing into the Reen. So it's as you head towards Burton Row, the left-hand side, the drains are operational. It's the ones on the right-hand side that are the problem. And particularly near the old manor, there is one drain that is completely blocked. Liam Gill has told me that they have got that on the schedule. Remember, they put down a camera to have a look, and they found there was damage underneath the highway. It is scheduled to have clearance work done, which will probably mean digging up the road. But that is scheduled for this coming financial year, so it should be happening. But it's still working its way through the train.
Can we reply to this lady along those lines then,
Yeah,
Owen?
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Because that's very useful, Bob. Thank you.
Can I mention something about Bakersfield?
Yeah.
On one of the notices, it says sponsored by Brent Knoll Parish Council. Shouldn't it say supported by?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it says sponsored. It sounds as if we lobbed a load of money at it.
Bob.
Am I
Again,
right?
would be happy with either words, but we didn't give any of our money, but if you remember, we authorised government grant money that had to come through the parish council to be spent on it. So there was financial contribution from the parish, although technically it wasn't our money.
Yeah.
I still think the word supported would be better, but there we are.
Okay. Right. Okay. Matters. Sorry.
Matters of decision. Now we're on
decision. On the climbing frame, we did have a subgroup, but we haven't met yet. Brian has got some catalogues together.
Three catalogues from 3 different firms, including Sutcliffe Clay, with a whole range of items that we can look at.
Yeah, so I think
we eventually get together.
now we've sorted the SID, then probably we should meet as a subgroup. Correct me, who was on the play group? Was it you were on there, weren't you, Nigel?
Yep.
Yeah, and Brian?
Yeah, we also should remember we were talking about provision for the under 5s, which we don't want to forget.
So there's Nigel, Brian.
John was on there as well, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, and CT. Okay, so we'll Owen, would you like to sit on that with us as well?
I'll come and do the notes and you know add that side of it for you by all means. Yes, very happy to do that.
So what we'll do then, we'll set up a Zoom meeting and we'll start this. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe next week we can have one, perhaps.
Yeah. Item B we've dealt with. Thank you. Item C, concerns over the hedge at 23 Brent Street.
Bob raised this as a.
I think that was mine, Colin. It was just that when you're walking along Brent Street at the moment, you've got the sort of virtual white line that is there to help pedestrians. When you get to number 23, you can't walk along that section because the hedge has just come out completely over it. And it was just whether we could drop a friendly note to the householder just to ask them if they could get it cut back, or whether we could help in some way of getting it cut back if they can't.
Do you have a name? I don't want to hear the name over the recording, but do we have a name?
I'm sure I can find a name.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Isn't that the house I said was all overgrown? Is it that same one that I mentioned to you?
It's a bungalow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but the bungalow, I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Warwick.
If it's going out over a highway, surely it's a highways issue.
No.
And they can stick an enforcement notice through the door.
I guess it just depends on whether we want to go in heavy or whether we want to have a friendly approach, and it may well, I don't know what the circumstances are of the people in there as to whether they may not be capable of doing it themselves.
And it may not be highways because it's over a designated footpath area on the highway, isn't it? It's really, Bob, it's highlighting a footpath area, isn't it? Where it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know what councillors feel, but I think a light touch approach is the best way. First, please.
I'll write a diplomatic letter.
Okay, thank you.
That's that way.
There are also 1 or 2 in Station Road, which are like that as well, by the way.
Yes, and that little narrow path.
I don't know of them, but if they can be identified, then
I'll identify them. Let Owen know.
If you don't mind, Brian, great. Thanks.
Hill Lane, Church Lane, Gully Matters request to the county. I'm not sure what that one was about.
Sorry, that was me again, Colin. Sorry. The Hill Lane one hopefully has moved on slightly. I went along the other day with a spade and dug out the access to the drain. So it's as you're coming down Hill Lane, just before you get to Church Lane, there's a lot of water that goes across the road. The problem was there was a lot of soil and grass that had blocked the access to the gully drain. So that's now dug out. So hopefully that should work. The other one was the Church Lane area, which was highlighted to me the other day when we had the very bad frost. I managed to get halfway up Church Lane in the car and then couldn't get any further because it was completely covered with ice. And there's a footpath as you come down the side of the church. A spring has sprung, which is sending water out onto Church Lane, which most of the time it's just damp. But obviously when we have frost, it had turned it into a complete ice sheet. And I'm surprised no one actually had an accident there. And I just wondered whether, and I don't know whether David's up for a working party at some point, whether we could dig something just to send the water down the side of the land rather than sending it out onto the highway.
Yeah, that'll be fine with me. Seems a sensible idea. I know what you mean, because it seems to be getting a bit worse all the time now, that water.
Yeah. So if you're happy for us to go out there with a couple of spades and just sort something out.
Yeah, happy to help out as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Owen, virtual parish meeting planning.
Yeah. We didn't have a meeting last year for very obvious reasons. Most councils this year are going to have a go at virtual parish meetings, simply because we are legally bound to have them. And although a decision was taken last year that we didn't have to have one, this year I think it's thought that with virtual meetings being now the norm, there's no reason why parish councils couldn't have a virtual parish meeting. So if we were to do so, 21st of April will be our normal date. And that would also come, not that it really matters from this point of view, from the annual parish meetings point of view, but it comes within the legislative part of it, which goes up to May the 7th. When after May the 7th, unless legislation changes, we cannot continue to have this kind of format for a parish council meeting. I suspect they will change it. I'm hoping they will by the time we get to the end of April. But certainly as far as the annual parish meeting is concerned, I'm very happy to have a go, if you are, to getting a virtual meeting up and running, which would mean, Colin, you perhaps doing your usual report, perhaps me doing a brief report, and basically inviting members of the public to come along.
Yes, but we wouldn't have a guest speaker then. Yeah, just do it locally, as it were.
Yeah, what we're legally bound to do is to have a report from the chairman, and really that's our main obligation of an annual parish meeting.
Okay. All right.
So if you're happy for that, then as you approve that, then I will make sure that come April 21st, we have something set up for that.
Okay, Brian.
The only thing I mentioned to Owen about this is if you had 30 or 40 people want to come, plus ourselves, it's going to be very minuscule pictures on the screen, aren't they?
Yes.
I mean, how many can you get on? I mean, probably won't happen, but it might.
Well,
it takes a number of pictures and you slide across to another page.
Sorry.
So there is a maximum amount of
Oh yeah.
see on the screen, and then it gives you the option to go to the next screen to see everybody else.
Oh, yeah,
So
I
this one gets smaller.
discovered that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But also, if we're talking probably, I don't know, maybe 20 people joining.
At the very most, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about housekeeping with regards to people keeping themselves on mute so it doesn't disturb us, like they're they're chatting in the background, you could hold what's called a webinar where we are all presenters, and everybody else that attends, you don't see their face, but they see our face, so they're sat in the background listening.
I think Bob wants to say something, actually.
Yeah, sorry, Bob.
Was only going to say that, just as an example, they had the briefing last week or earlier this week for East Brent for the new proposal for development over there. And I think they had about 50 that attended, and exactly as Nigel said, there was one page of 25, and then you press the button and you saw the other 25. So it's 25 on a screen.
Right.
And certainly some Brent Knoll residents were there, so so they did work out how to do it.
And do remember, of course, the annual parish meeting, not the council meeting, the annual parish meeting. It's only the chairman and the clerk that actually are representing the council. Everybody else is there as a member of the public. So, in fact, everybody here, if they came to that meeting, they would just simply be a part of the public group. So that's the difference between that and a normal council meeting.
Well, let's try it. We haven't done it before, and yeah, let's give it a go and see how we get on, because I think there's some useful information to give the people of Brent Knoll, not in particular the shop, really.
Yes.
What we're trying to do,
Yes.
and Village Green area, SID, etc., and what we're asked to do. And I think it's good PR that we do that. So why don't we try it and see how we get on?
Okay. All right. We'll leave that with me, and I'll get that try and get that set up.
Okay. The next one is Handyman for the village. John, do you want to say a few words on this?
Yes, yes, I can. There are one or two points to make. We have talked about a village handyman really for a number of months. So we either now need to decide to do something about it. I think it's also thought that if we're going to employ, I think we need to employ a handyman so we know what we're talking about. So if we do that, then we need to advertise for one. And having advertised one, he then must be selected, whoever it is. And we also need to draw up a list of tasks for him to do monthly or during the year. And tied into that, and you mentioned it very briefly when you were talking about SIDS, we've got the facility manager, and you have suggested that there may be some tasks that he might like to take on, but I doubt if he would want to take on the role of handyman about the village. So really, do we want a handyman? Are we going to employ one? And are we going to advertise one? I did actually write an advertisement to be put into the Brent Knoll News, which is on ice at the moment. So we can put an advert in fairly quick time should we decide to do so.
Thank you, John. Any comments on that?
Comments?
Okay,
That's a good, very good idea.
it is.
Can I make a suggestion, please?
Yeah.
I suggest that if we employ somebody, we have to pay all the insurance and national insurance and tax and everything else concerning that person. But if we had someone who was self-employed and they were paid a retainer and then so much for each duty that they performed.
I totally agree with you. We don't want to be employing anybody. I mean, again, I come back to this facilities management type guy. He does carry handymen and people that do all sorts of jobs for existing council work anyway. And I think, you know, he's got all the insurances, he's got all the kit, he's got all the transport, and he's also got the skills. And I think that probably that it may well be a place to start, because we do need job. For instance, we need a lot of roadsides cleaning rather. We need somebody to go around and litter pick. We need somebody to do all sorts of maybe fence work. All those things can be done through one organisation because they've got all the different skills. But it's just another thought alongside John's. John.
Yes, I think I was wrong to imply that we could have somebody directly employed. We don't need to do that. So I do agree with Malcolm's suggestion. Just a question of how we go forward.
Any thoughts on trying I'm going to the second screen. Andy or David, any thoughts on going to these facilities people and seeing what they can offer? Or do we advertise for someone? Nigel?
Yeah, I'm glad we're not talking about employing someone directly. I think if there is this facilities management that can provide all the services we need, I think there obviously could be some savings there with a lot of the jobs that we dish out to some other people in the village. But would that impact the likes of Paul Dixon, for example, that does a lot of work around the village green, the toilets, etc.?
The answer to that I can't tell you, Nigel.
I mean, until we get the full sort of like itinerary on what this facilities management and the tasks that they can do for us, then yeah, okay.
I think my thoughts are to speak with them and see what they make a list of the sort of jobs that we do require and see whether they can do them. And just go from there. We haven't approached anyone like that before, and I think it might solve a problem for us quite quickly. But is there?
Bob has a raised hand.
I'm sorry, Bob. Yeah,
that's okay. All I was going to ask, Colin, it might be a good question for Owen. In terms of things like when we've done the Jason Mayo contract, we have to go out for tender to allow other companies to bid. Would we have, because in effect we're letting a contract here, would we have to do something similar? So we would have to almost go out for a tender or put out an advert for people to put themselves forward?
Yeah, I think we would, because I think one of the things that we more and more encourage the councils to do now is to operate a transparency code, whereby we are really responsible for making sure that when we allow tenders for anything, that we should give at least 3 people an opportunity to come and tell us what they can do. And I think if we there is somebody else in the village. I mean, as Bob knows, there's a chap called Mike LePage in the village. Well, Mike has contacted me on a number of occasions and said, I don't get much work from the council, even though I live locally. And so maybe he would want to apply and perhaps say, look, I'd like to be your handyman on call when you need me. So there may be other people, but I just feel we've got to be as transparent as possible, just so that we are complying fully.
No, I agree. If Mike LePage wants to do the work, I'd be delighted. There are jobs that he can go and do now on the village green bench that needs sorting out. The toilet block male lock needs sorting out. I reported it some months ago and it's still not being done. So we just need to hit these jobs off quickly rather than leave them lying around. So yes, let's
Andy's
talk.
got a raised hand. Andy?
Sorry,
Andy's got a raised hand.
oh, I'm sorry, Andy. Beg your pardon.
I'm on page 2, Owen.
Yes.
I sort of listening to the conversation, would it not be wiser for us to have a number of agencies on our books so that we can put tasks out? Having a full-time employee, we probably don't have enough work for a full-time employee. And as councillors come across issues, we can then put that out as a job number to the 1-2 agencies that we've got on the books and push for both speed and price. So we are transparent, but also we get the jobs done quicker, because we are quite slow at getting some things resolved because we're waiting on people being able to get there. So a number of agencies, a variable workshop, and ask and put them out to those agencies for speed and pricing.
What do councillors feel? I mean, Owen, have we got enough? Have we got people besides Mike LePage?
Well, we've obviously got Paul Dixon, who's done the, he's a, can take a little bit of time to get around to doing jobs, but he does get there eventually. We've got Paul Dixon, Mike LePage. We've got other people. I mean, there are people like Dave Welland and so forth, which we have used in the past. It really is a question of building up a little group of people who are prepared to be there as on call. We don't want to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for some of these jobs, like you were saying about the lock.
Okay,
be done immediately.
Okay. So it sounds as if we establish a list of approved contractors for better, and then we gist the jobs out, but we give them an order and we for it to be done in a certain time scale rather than as and when.
And they must present us annually with their appropriate insurance. That's one of the most important things. And it's not just a question of looking at it once, we need to look at it annually. I think that's something which we have slipped back a bit on, because I know that, for example, Jason, I haven't seen his insurance for a couple of years. I perhaps need to just ask him to present that to us again, because that's quite important. Insurance companies are very insistent on that. So, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. John, you happy with that? Because it was your, okay.
Chairman, could I just ask one final question?
Hey,
From what Owen was saying, are we then saying that we will put out something to ask companies to come forward to say that they would like to be on that list?
Interesting. What do councillors feel about that? That we put a note out on, where would you suggest, Bob, on the list of places that we have agreed we will put our news out to? Do you remember on our media policy, we agreed that we would go to various local organisations like BurnhamOnSea.com, Nextdoor, that sort of thing.
I would have thought with something like this, you'd be looking at Nextdoor and probably the BKN, because you're wanting to focus on people who've got that connection with the village.
So Nextdoor and BKN then.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Items G, H and J. You've had pre-circulated documents from Owen. I was going to take all three together, to be honest with you, because of time. But does anyone have any issues, amendments, or problems associated with those documents?
I'm sure you've all read standing orders from beginning to end and identified all the various component parts of it. We were a little bit late, actually, to be fair. We're a little bit late in approving these. They were actually issued by NALC in 2018. We're not the only ones. Many councils have missed that 2018 revised edition. And I have to say we have similarly bypassed it. So it's just a question of ticking a box and saying that we're actually approving it.
Yeah, can I propose then that we accept the 3 documents: revised standing orders, publication scheme, and council risk management scheme. Can I propose that we accept them, and they are included within our standard documentations? All those in favour, please?
Yes.
Yes.
And they will appear on the website in due course.
Yeah, I've got Andy. David, you okay with that? Yeah, brilliant.
And
Okay,
Andy-
so that's carried. That makes things easy.
Yeah.
Item J, please can we spend our grant from the Nuttall Trust on another one of these benches that we purchased last year? One of these, it's made out of composite recycled materials that require no maintenance. This one I propose is one that has access for a disabled wheelchair. So one of the ends will take a wheelchair, which I think we should consider. I managed to get a 5% discount on it. So without VAT, it's £536.72. That includes ground fixings as well. So in other words, it's just an extra £36.72 we've got to find ourselves to enable us to get a new bench, and then probably we could get rid of one of the older ones off there and replace it with a nice new bench. Please, are there any questions, or would someone like to propose that we do that, please? Same supplier.
Frozen.
Thank you, Malcolm. Seconded, Brian? All those in favour? That's great, thank you. You've got the quote, haven't you, Owen?
Have you sent it to me very recently then, Neville?
I did do, but I've got another
Can you
copy.
resend that to me?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely.
Okay. Right, last item, village flag rules and flag arrangements. John.
Yeah, fairly simple. I have pre-circulated my ideas or our ideas already. I have no comments on it. The idea is that perhaps we can fly 4 different flags in the village: the Union flag, the St George's flag, the village flag, and the county flag. The pattern which I put out in the flying schedule. So if we can agree to that, agree to buying 3 new flags. So in fact, we would in effect have 4 brand new flags to fly in the future. The 3 new flags would cost about £298 VAT free. And also we need to agree that Amanda Reason, who has volunteered to be flag mistress, is our flag mistress.
Who did you say?
Amanda Reason.
Oh.
So what we've got someone who's prepared to, if you like, fly the flags at various times, and John has indicated a calendar when this can be done. So Amanda will put the appropriate flag up at the right time and take it down and keep all the flags on our behalf. Sounds like a really good idea, and we're going to buy some new flags to support that. Would anyone like to propose that?
I will.
Cynthia, is there a seconder for that? Do we have to have a seconder?
We'll put one down just to.
Okay. So all those in favour?
Yes.
That's everybody. I've just gone to my second page. That's everyone. Yes.
Just one small question for John. Being a Scottish supporter, since we beat England this year, can we have a Scottish flag up as well?
Yeah. Let's have the Euro flag as well.
You only have to buy one because it's only once every 10 years. So
Buy a flagpole for your house.
Was just a quick thing, Colin. Having agreed that is just wondered if we could put on the agenda for a future meeting, just whether we look at doing a small honorarium for the flag mistress.
Mhm.
We can review that when we look at the budget, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No,
Good idea.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that completes our business. That's good.
Report.
If I go round, I'll go to my page 2. Cynthia, any matters arising?
No, none.
John?
No.
Brian?
No,
Andy?
No.
Bob?
Nope.
David?
No.
No. Okay. And Malcolm?
No.
Right. Nigel?
No,
Andrea and Warwick?
No,
No,
Okay, thank you. And Bob?
No again.
So we're all no. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for a good meeting, and it's finished in pretty reasonable time considering what we've had to do. Thank you all very much, and
Thank you.
the groups will report. Yeah. Okay, Owen.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.